And we're live. Welcome back to the Moment Makers podcast.
What's up, guys? We're finally back together. How's it going,
Back
everyone?
together again.
Yeah, man. It's been a minute.
It has. It's been a hot minute. Um, so this episode is going to be a lighter one. We're not going to talk about a whole bunch of deep stuff. We're going to save that for the interview that we're going to do later in the week. I do have a couple of things that I want to kind of get out of the way. So the giveaway for the podcast is going to go to Sammy Jammy underscore 12233. Uh,
Congratulations, bro.
I have no way of knowing who you are. So if you could reach out to either me or the podcast on Instagram so we can get you your free uh, Spero merch, reach out to me at Brennan Toller on Instagram or Moment Makers Life on the podcast page. But Sammy Jammy 12233, you're the winner of the free T-shirt.
Yeah, man. It's gonna be exciting to see people wearing our merch. Guys, remember if you guys buy some of our merchandise, then you guys can take some pictures and we'll feature you on our page. We want to support you guys as much as you guys support us, so we appreciate all of the support that you guys have given us so far.
Absolutely, and you do have a few ways that you can win a free shirt from Sparrow. The easiest one is going to be to listen to the podcast episodes that we put up and put a um, 5-star review as well as a comment on Apple Podcasts. That's going to be the easiest way. Helps us grow the media, and it gives you a chance to win a free shirt. And right now, no one has done it for the month of February. It's the 22nd, so you've got a really good shot of getting a free shirt. So let's make that happen.
Yeah, I mean, any kind of feedback from you guys would be awesome. I know I got some people that are listening in over here. Just gotta just give a review. We just want to know you guys' feedback. Keep building this community, and we want to be able to connect with you guys. We want to know what you guys want us to talk about. So just keep showing us support, and we'll definitely be connecting with you guys.
Yeah, and of the reviews we've seen, people seem to love it, so we're just going to keep trucking along doing what we're doing.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Again, sparrowcloth.com is the website for the clothing. You can also find the podcast links there if you can't find them otherwise. But how would you be listening to this if you did not know the podcast links? So, but we'll go ahead and get started into today's episode. So we're gonna interview Eli on his apprenticeship and kind of what all he's doing as far as tattooing and what's going on with all that, why he got into it, and we'll kind of start with what made you want to start tattooing.
Well, I've always been obsessed with tattoos since I was a kid. I remember seeing all the bands that we listen to, and then seeing people walking around and I've seen tattoos. Like it just really always caught my eye. So when I would say probably 12 or 13, I started looking into different documentaries. Like I totally nerded out over it.
Hmm.
I started watching all the documentaries, learning about the history of it, whether it's like Japanese history or Native American or Polynesian, whatever. But like I was so engulfed in it to the point where I had a talk with my mom. I was probably like 14, and I told her, I want to get a tattoo. And she looked at me like I was crazy, especially back then. So she was just like, "Oh, wait till you're 18, and then we'll see if you still want one or whatever." And then like 2 weeks before my 18th birthday, I told her I still wanted a tattoo, so I went ahead and got my first tattoo. I've been drawing since I was a kid, and it just kind of transferred over because once I started getting into tattooing, or getting into tattoos in general, I was always sketching out different tattoo designs. And actually, like in college, a couple people paid me to draw out their designs for them to get tattooed, and they actually got them tattooed. I was actually felt really honored, and like that feeling just stuck with me. So even though I ended up getting a degree in psychology, worked as a mental health professional, it's almost like I didn't really fully satisfy my calling. So Luckily, I was able to have a couple connections. My mentor is actually childhood like best friends with my neighbor, who's also like super close to my family, and he just saw my portfolio, and just knew that I really wanted to become a tattoo artist. So then he recommended me to my mentor. His name is Benjamin Duarte. He's over at Hammerhead Tattoos in Chicago. If you guys ever want to see him, amazing realism work, color, black and gray, whatever you name it, he's got it. And the guys over there at the shop are all amazing. And I don't know, it was just like as soon as I got the opportunity, I didn't hesitate. Like I wanted it so bad. So I just remember fighting for that apprenticeship because what most people don't understand is that in the industry, it's very hard to get in because when you get a new apprentice, you're basically raising up your next competition per se. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the only way you can really get an apprenticeship is you have to really prove yourself that you're going to actually be an asset to the industry. You're going to bring something new, or you're going to revitalize the industry to keep it going. So they always want like really artistic minded and talented people. So I sat there for probably 2 months straight, just blowing up Ben's Instagram, just asking him his opinion on my artwork, what I can improve. Because when I had first talked to him, he was just like, I don't know if we're looking for an apprenticeship. We were looking at this other guy and all this, and it wasn't sure. But he just said, keep in touch, and he's the least that we can do is help you improve your drawings, even though you're not a part of an apprenticeship, and maybe you can get an apprenticeship somewhere else.
Mm.
And I didn't let up. I just pretty much every week I was sending him pictures of different drawings I was doing, and I was just ripping them out, and just kept on sending him until finally he was just like, all right, you want it this bad? All right, you start. I think I started like 2 days after my birthday, which was like insane. So it was like an awesome birthday present to myself. So, then once I started, it was like totally what I did not expect. Completely what I didn't expect because instead of like what most people think, you're gonna go into a shop, it's gonna be really cool, super chill. And don't get me wrong, it's super chill, but it's like gruesome work, and it's you don't get paid for it. So I'm working almost 30, 35, sometimes even a full 40-hour week, depending on if we're doing a convention or something like that. And that goes all unpaid. So the reason why a lot of people don't make it through their apprenticeship is because they don't know how to balance out their finances with still working at an apprenticeship. So it's a test to see if you really want it. And luckily, I've been squeezing by because like I'm doing a whole bunch of other jobs on the side too. But even with all those obstacles, it just keeps on encouraging me that I really want this because I could have quit within the first 2 months because it was like super hard. It was very hard to adjust and all that. But it's just been my passion. And you and I both in previous episodes have encouraged and preached time and time again. Do what makes you happy. It doesn't matter what other people's expectations are or whatever. So I was very honest. I really wanted this. It was really funny because I got it so many times. People were like, "Oh, you look like a tattoo artist," and then you remember Brendan, like some of the guys in the group would always be like, "Why don't you just be a tattoo artist because you can draw and stuff?" Remember?
Yeah.
So I just started thinking about it. I was like, why not? Why not just go ahead and do it? And I just went for it. And like ever since then, I always say this, and everybody laughs when I tell them. But like for me, I always tell them this is probably the most broke I've ever been in my life. Besides being back in West Virginia, like
Yeah.
I'm pretty much back to that pay grade. But
West Virginia was rough, let me tell you.
bro, I still remember when I was struggling to even get a full-time job. I was still working Bob Evans for like not even like $60 a week.
Yeah.
Man, that was a tough time. But hey, it was all worth it. But
Yeah, and
definitely,
like it's cool to kind of put in perspective for people that actually listen. It's not like we're telling you to do something that we're not doing ourselves. You know, I I spent a year and a half doing construction, not because I was passionate about it, because I kind of had to, but I got into it because I wanted to do it. I wanted to see what all there was and entailed to it, and come to find out that it's not something that I want to do. But I wouldn't know that if I didn't try. You know,
Yeah.
it's very easy to have dreams and wishes and think, oh, that'd be cool. But all it takes is just stepping out of your comfort zone and doing it. You know, you wanted the tattoo, you've wanted the tattoo for years, and that's a passion. You know, it's something that it didn't matter what obstacles you had to overcome, you were going to make that happen. You
Yeah.
know, for me, it's Sparrow. It's the podcast. It's not knowing anything about what I was doing and just kind of doing it, making it up as I go, and figuring out the right way to do it as it goes. And we're not even we don't even know the right way to do it yet. We're just kind of doing it. You know, and
Yep.
that's the thing is now is the best time to do anything you want to do because of how much technology we have, because of how much resources we have at our disposal. You know, if you want to learn how to um, code software, I'm guarantee you that there are hundreds of videos on YouTube that show you how to code and coding for beginners and intermediate coding and advanced coding. You know, it literally anything that you want to do, you can
Hmm.
figure out how to do. And that's what's cool about life now is, you know, it used to be that you were born of a family, that was your family. They did that job and that's the job that you grew up doing and that was it. You know, now you
Yeah.
can be an entrepreneur, you can have six different jobs all doing different things and work from home. You know,
Yeah.
it's
Exactly.
the coolest thing. And what you're doing is something that you've wanted to do for years, but that it's no different. You know, if you have a passion for something, you'll make it work. You know, you were working 35, 40 hours a week, not getting paid. Somehow you're making it work, you know?
Hmm.
It's not a matter of you can, it's a matter of that you don't want to. If you
Yeah.
can't, if you
Yeah.
say that you
Exactly.
can't.
Yeah, because you know, and I'm not trying to bash anybody, so I'm not saying any names, but it was just like this guy who was gonna be the second apprentice at the shop, and he lasted 4 days. He was over here like apparently he had already been tattooing for a while, and he was really wanting to do it. And sorry, my dog's saying hi. But literally it was just like he was all gun ho about it, and he really wanted to do this. And then once he realized you got to do to be a part of the apprenticeship, he was like, "Oh no, forget this," And I'm just sitting here like, then you really don't want it, And that's just one thing I want to tell people is like, just because you really want something doesn't mean it's going to come easy. Some of the best things in life you're going to have to work hard for, whether it's a friendship, relationship, career, whatever the case may be. And that's why I always tell people like when I get people that say, "Oh, I wish I was rich and all this stuff," I don't tell them. I don't agree, honestly. Like, I don't. I'd rather work work my ass off to earn my living and to feel like I really did work for it, rather than sit here and inherit money. Because one of the things that I realized, I also drive Uber on the side to make some extra cash, and when I was driving this guy one time, and he told me that he was a CEO, and here in Chicago, any CEO is gonna be a multimillionaire because this is like one of the mecca centers for trade. And when he was just sitting there talking about his job, I could just hear the misery in his voice. I mean, like, he was very honest. He's like, this is just the family business. He's like, I originally went to school for music and somehow ended up in the company itself. And I was just sitting there like, man, he's making mad money, but he's miserable. And I was just
Well,
like, man, you know what? I can't do
that's why
it.
success is relative. You know, success
Exactly.
is defined by who you are and what you want out of life. You know, success could be being a stay-at-home mom because you have two beautiful kids and that's what you want to do with your life. Or success could be working at a coffee shop because you love people, you love the atmosphere, you love doing what you do. Or success can be making six figures a year. You know,
Hmm.
it's relative to who you are and what your goals are in life.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
I don't think money does not bring happiness. You know, it's kind of that old saying that, money can't buy happiness. It can't. It is a tool that you can use to further yourself. But if you're not goal driven, if you're not ambitious, and you don't have those things in place to further yourself and grow, then it's just money.
Yeah.
That's what I tell. That's what I told my wife when we got together. It's just money. We'll figure it out. We were living on no money. We were maxing out credit cards to get by. And we're better for it. And I'd rather go through that and have those life experiences than be comfortable for the next 40, 50 years.
Yeah,
Because it,
exactly.
it, it makes you really appreciate where you are when you get to that point, when you're comfortable, when you're happy, when you love your job, when you can say, I want to be in this place for the rest of my life. The rest of my working life, I want to stay right here where I'm at. Or you can say with confidence, this is not where I want to be, and I want to figure out what I want to do. So it it gives you perspective, and I think perspective is more valuable than anything else in life because it gives you empathy when you talk to people about certain things. It gives you perspective because you can understand where people are, what they're saying, even if you haven't experienced exactly that. You've been through enough life experiences where you can, again, empathize with people and kind of get on their level. And it teaches you how to be humble.
Yeah.
That's the biggest part is if you're not humble, then you're not gonna go far in life. I was talking to a guy yesterday or last night, and he said the best people to work with are the ones that don't know everything because they're eager to learn. They're just fun to work with. If you work with a know-it-all, you're miserable because that person already knows everything and they don't think they can better themselves. And that goes back to what I was saying about being humble. If
Yeah.
you're humble and you put your nose down and you do what you got to do and you figure stuff out, you're more enjoyable to be around when you're working. You're more enjoyable to be around when you're hanging out because you're not trying to show off. You're not trying to um, be the biggest guy in the room. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That actually, it's funny that you mentioned that because lately I've been looking into different motivational speakers and words of wisdom. And I came across this quote that was from the Dalai Lama. And it says, when you talk, you're only repeating what you already know. But if you listen, you may learn something new. And when you put that into perspective, you really do only talk about what you know. So you can only really comment accurately on the information that you've already obtained in the past. Like, but the best part is when you're listening. So people always ask me, like, Eli, why are you always so quiet in a group, or, why is that like at parties you kind of step back or whatever the case may be? And like my mentality is I'm always a very observant person, but I also just really love to learn. So when I surround myself with people that are older than me or have more experience than me, you'll notice that I get very quiet. And it's not because I'm intimidated. It's because I see it as an opportunity that I can absorb the information and apply it to my own life and have a better outcome in the future because I gained the information from that moment.
Well, and
And I
that's
believe,
another thing too,
yeah,
is surrounding yourself with people that you can learn from.
yeah,
A lot
exactly.
of people surround themselves with people who are negative and have bad attitudes and all they do is complain. That's not going to make you grow. That's not going to make you a better person.
Hmm.
You need to cut the ties from people that are bringing you down and start finding people that are going to help you grow as a person, help you feel better about yourself, help motivate you and push you to do what you want to do. I was at work the other day and I was in the lunchroom and some of these people were just complaining about what they don't have and why all these other people are making a bunch of money and why they get all this stuff even when they make a bunch of money and how they deserve stuff. And the difference is the people that are making a bunch of money negotiate. They
Yeah,
put effort into what they're doing. Yeah, they're not doing the same kind of work that you're doing, but they have that experience and that skill set to negotiate what they're their income is, what benefits they receive.
Yeah.
Um, and they're doing it. Like the people that are complaining have every right to try and get the same job that the guys do that they're complaining about, but they don't because they're not goal oriented. They're happy with their 9 to 5 doing what they're doing and that being what it is.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that's where that humble comes back into play is, if you can humble yourself and know, okay, these people are not who I need to be around because they're just negative. I need to find people that can bring me up. I know where I'm at right now. I'm not where I want to be. Who do I need to hang out with and learn from to further myself? And then that could be in your career, that could be
Yep.
in your life, it could be in your entrepreneurial enterprises. It doesn't have to be just about money. It could be about yourself. Um, Lifting. If you don't know what you're doing going to the gym, find someone that does. Hang out with someone that does.
Yeah.
Have someone show you what to do so that you can have proper form so you don't look like the jackass that's going in there throwing around 50-pound dumbbells doing arm curls because that's not going to
Dude,
do
yeah.
anything for you. It's going to hurt you. You
Honestly,
know,
yeah. Side note, it's like that's like my biggest pet peeve, man. Oh my
yeah.
gosh, in the gym, and even though like I'm a trainer, I still like to learn from other people. So like the people that I work out with, like one guy, this dude's just naturally gifted. The dude's strong as hell. Is my buddy Angel, and he's been like bodybuilding slash powerlifting since he was like 16. And even though I have a different style of training, I like to actually do more endurance, a lot more mobility, and then mix in some strength training. He's just like pure power, and he's got a great physique, and so like I like to challenge myself with a lot of his routines, and then I challenge him with my routines because he'll do like normal like 5 sets of 5, or he'll do like a top set single, basically just like working on the central nervous system to build up that strength and then let the muscle come behind it. Whereas I like to focus on muscle contraction isolations like negatives and more high repetitions like 5 sets of 6 or 5 sets of 8. And for me, that's what my body reacts to. So that's how I like to keep the physique that I have. But if I didn't open my mind, I would have not gotten as strong as I am today. And and that's like just the same thing even when it applies to tattooing. Like there's what we call people that tattoo at home and don't go into apprenticeship is called a scratcher. And the reason why they're scratchers is because most of the time they don't even know what they're doing. So most of the stuff usually like falls out or fades because they're not penetrating deep enough or at the proper angle. And that's why those people, even if they do realize like, oh, I need to do an apprenticeship, most of the time they won't actually get an apprenticeship because they already disrespected the industry, and most of the time I've noticed that the people that normally don't have an apprenticeship also have the mindset that they don't need anybody and they don't need to learn from anybody. And that's usually what screws them over in the end because you got to be humble. Like you got to understand. Like my one of my coworkers at the shop, he was a scratcher, but then he humbled himself and he worked his ass off to get an apprenticeship. And then that apprenticeship, he had to start completely over. Even though he already knew kind of how to tattoo, he had to start all over again. And he humbled himself and relearned everything. And then now he's a fantastic artist. Like the dude is literally always busy, and it's gotten to a point where he's accidentally like double booked himself, and like that's my goal. That's what I want to get to. Yeah, because like I'm not even kidding. We call him Hollywood Chris because he actually he got a message from Ink Master to actually be on the show, but he declined it because he's like, nah, I'd rather not be on TV. And it's like, man, you can actually get to a point where you can deny being on TV because you can afford to not be on the show. Like,
Yeah.
that's insane. And like, this dude is constantly, and that, like, his work ethic, along with my mentor, like, they are always pushing themselves. And like, one thing I remember, I had seen a video from Dwayne the Rock Johnson where everybody pretty much knows his backstory that like he went to LA with like $7 in his pocket and he made it work. And one of the things he said is like anybody who's successful or has achieved their dreams didn't do it working a 9 to 5. It was what they did at 5 in the morning or midnight or whatever the case may be, but it's not within the time frame of their simple like 8 to 5 or 9 to 5, whatever.
Mm.
And when I was talking with the guys, they were all saying the same thing. Like Chris, Hollywood Chris, he worked his normal 9 to 5. Then every day he would leave straight from work to go straight to the apprenticeship, and he'd be there till whatever, sometimes midnight, 1 o'clock. And he would get up the next day and go right back to his normal 9 to 5, then come right back to his apprenticeship. And then my mentor Ben, he's got a whole family and everything, and he still will get to the shop at 12, and then he won't leave till midnight, 1 o'clock, depending on the appointments that he has. But he tries to. Now he's at the point where he's got steady clients to where he can schedule himself easily. But he'll still. I still remember one day it blew my mind. Like he had a full day session. Then a couple people came in. They wanted some small little tattoos, and the other guys were all busy. And then he was like, you know what, Eli, set up the next station because we had an extra station that was open. So I set up that station, and I was wondering, I was like, what are you gonna do? And he's like, we're gonna give this guy a break. He's like, I'm gonna knock those two tattoos out in like less than an hour. And the dude literally, as he's tattooing, because it was two people that walked in, he started tattooing one of them. I cleaned up another station, set that station up. Then he literally just got up, got the other person to the next station, tattooed him. I cleaned up real fast, switched it, and within an hour, he did two tattoos while he was still literally in the middle of another tattoo appointment.
Daggone.
Yeah.
Like that's so that goes back to like so everything that we're talking about is just challenging yourself, right? Like it's
Yeah.
pushing yourself to do something that you wouldn't do normally. And that's the difference between people like us and people that are just comfortable with their 9 to 5 and they just get by and that's all they want out of life. And when you challenge yourself and you push yourself to do things that are uncomfortable that you don't know that make you humble,
Mm,
that's when you start to grow. That's when you start to see that change. When you start to feel, oh, I've got this. And then you challenge yourself some more and you're like, oh, I don't have this. And then you get it. And that gives you that little extra boost then. And continuously challenging yourself. And him doing that may not have been a challenge to him. He may have done that time and time again. But
yeah.
it still, if it wasn't, he challenged himself to the point where he knew that he could do that confidently. If he hasn't done it before, then it's something that he pushed himself to do and he did it confidently. You know,
Yeah.
it's all about challenging yourself, pushing yourself. I think I've talked about it before. There's a guy that I follow on YouTube. He intentionally does things that will kick his ass so that he can humble himself. So that
Yeah.
way he can learn from it, grow from it, learn how to overcome it, and then find the next thing that's going to kick his ass because he just continually wants to grow.
Dude, well, I need to know about this dude because I'm literally the same way. So like, even though now like I'm doing construction on the side, I knew only like basic carpentry, so I did a lot of roofing and siding, and I needed to make some extra cash. So I was lucky enough to have the opportunity to do some side jobs. So, I've in like the past 5 months, I've already learned how to completely gut out a room down to the bare frame, freaking remove tiles, set up the whole plumbing system for the whole bathrooms, and working all different kinds of tools I've never messed with before. And that's the thing, like I love it. And it was very funny because Chris one day, I had actually gotten in trouble because part of my apprenticeship I have homework assignments, and basically like my mentor Ben would tell me like, hey, have like 3 or 4 flash sheets, which who for those who are listening and don't know what flash sheets are, basically just having your own original tattoo designs on paper so that clients that want to look at your artwork, they can look at it physically.
Yeah.
So he had told me I had to have three sheets done, and I was down to like my last design on one sheet, and I brought it in to finish at the shop. And he came in and was just like, "No, these are supposed to be done. There's no finishing it up at the shop. Like you walk into the shop, the designs are done, and you give it to me right then and there. And as soon as he said that, I knew I was screwed. So then he was just like, you know what? Because you didn't bring it in finished, you're gonna do an extra sheet. So mind you, each sheet can take about a day. So adding a sheet means that adding an extra day of work outside of the shop to get it done. So it's not just like, oh, an hour or two of homework. This is like I gotta look up references. I gotta lay it all out, line it all out. Then I finally do the full rendition of it and get it all completed. So when he told me that, I was like, crap. But then the following week, I got it all done. I brought in the sheets with the extra sheet that he asked for, and then Chris was like, "Dude, I swear it's like you just set yourself up to be screwed over so that you can put yourself under pressure." Because he's like, "Your drawings are 100 times better when you're under pressure than when you're just chilling." I literally told him like, "I guess so," because I've always been a procrastinator, and this apprenticeship has pushed me out of that habit. Like I have to have my stuff done, and like before I would actually walk into the shop and I wouldn't be the first one in because I didn't have a key at the time, and I had to like prove my word because I was always complaining, saying like, "Hey, I want a key. I want to be able to get in early and all this stuff." And the whole reason why they didn't give me a key at first was to prove they wanted me to prove that I actually wanted it. So they purposely didn't make it super easy for me, and I don't blame them, obviously, because the other apprentice just like dipped out after like 4 days. But so when I now have a key, it's like second nature. I'm at the shop before it even opens. I have everything set up. They're all set to go. The shop's cleaned up, and because of that, it's shown them that how serious I am about it, and it's also shown me that I need to start getting up earlier. Like as you know, Brennan, mornings are not my thing at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. For people that don't know, we've been trying to get episodes out earlier in the mornings, and I'm just a dead person. I am cranky. I
Yeah.
hate it. But lately, I've actually
You were
been
up before I was this
early.
morning, so I was proud of you. And you got an
Yeah,
hour
man.
difference.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what's that's what the mindset that everybody should have. Like take take everything with a grain of salt, suck it up, and grow from it. My apprenticeship has been the most amazing experience, but it's also been the most humbling experience because, I always thought that my artwork was great, and these guys are like a whole nother level. I've seen these guys with like nothing, just from scratch, just draw up a whole like chess piece and like in less than an hour. And I'm just sitting there like, wow, how the hell do you do that? Like for me, that'll take forever, and I have to look up references and all this stuff. And it's just from years of practice they honed in on the craft. And with these guys, seeing how they're having to hustle, it's like it kind of like just instilled a fire in me. So instead of being intimidated and being like, I don't want to work this hard. For me, it's just like, man, I want to get to the shop. I want to bust my ass and like work hard. And I really want to do this. So it's
Well,
like,
that goes back to surrounding yourself with people who are better influences, and even more so on that is people who are more talented than you. Um,
mhm,
I didn't go to college. I've got a background in design, but I never went to school for it. When I was a designer professionally at the studio that I was at, I learned everything I learned from the guy that I worked for. He went to school for everything. He learned what he needed to, and he had kind of his own tricks and tips of how to do certain things. And
mhm,
a lot of them I still carry with me. It having a professional education is well and good, but I think more often than not, and I think you're going to see in the next 5, 10 years, kind of a shift in the education system
oh,
where skill is more important than education. And that's not
yeah,
that education is not important. I think the skill that you have is more important than the actual learning of the skill, because you can learn a skill without going to school.
yeah,
Um,
man. There's a bunch of useless crap that I learned in high school that I have not applied to my life at all.
I instead of wasting a bunch of time and money on uh, a 4 year school or a 6 year school to learn something that I already had a good idea of how to do, And I got lucky getting a job in the graphic design field and doing that for a period of time. The guy that I worked for was a phenomenal person, and I'd love to work for him in the future, given the opportunity to do some side work or whatever. But that being said, what I learned from him when I worked with him, I still carry with me. And that's an important thing is there's always going to be someone that knows more than you. There's
Yeah,
always going to be someone that has their own way of doing something that you can learn how to do it. So stay humble. If I had pretend if I wasn't humble and I kind of walked around like I knew everything and that I didn't need help, I wouldn't have learned anything and I wouldn't have gotten as far as I am now in my design knowledge and my skill.
mm,
If you walked around like you knew everything and you didn't need help tattooing, you wouldn't learn anything. I'm sure the guys that are able to knock out a chess piece in an hour have ways and tricks and tips to do it to make it efficient and make it not suck. Because
yeah,
knocking out a tattoo in an hour is well and good, but if it doesn't, like you were saying with the scratchers, if it doesn't penetrate the right amount, if it doesn't go in the right angle, then it's not a good tattoo. The difference
yeah,
between an hour tattoo and a good hour tattoo is that one of them you actually want. And I'm sure the guys that are able to do that and do that well have tricks and tips of how they do it that they didn't learn from school or the apprenticeship that they went through. It's something that they've developed over time, learning how they work and how they tattoo, and not just applying it to tattooing, but anything in life. If, um, like I work in sales now, and everyone has their own quirks. One of our sales managers was talking about it yesterday. Um, the staff that I work with now is probably the best staff that I've worked with as far as a sales team.
mm,
Um, and everyone has their own quirks of how they sell, and that's a skill set. Everyone has their own word track. Everyone has their own way of talking to people and figuring out what they want, and how to get them what they're wanting. Um, and it doesn't just come naturally to everybody. Some people it does, but like tattooing, it's something that you have to learn your way of doing it. Uh,
yeah.
and that's where I think surrounding yourself with people who know more than you, who are better than you, who are positive, can help you grow and learn the skills that you need to better yourself and better your future.
Yeah, exactly. I actually had the opportunity where all of these guys, like you said, I got to figure out my own way of how I want to tattoo. But they pretty much give me the foundation, and they actually give me the recommendation on certain things because like they got so many years of experience. So I may think that I'm doing something that's totally innovative, and they'll tell me, "Oh yeah, no, that doesn't work. We tried it, and it just doesn't." It basically helps eliminate the room for error. So, for instance, there's two different types of machines that artists will use. One is a rotary-based motor machine, and the other
Mm-hmm.
one is a an actual coil machine. So the coil machine is pretty much what everybody knows, and you can hear it. It's the typical tattoo machine that everybody knows. And the rotary is a more advanced, I would say, better version in my opinion. I'm probably gonna get backlash for that because a lot of old-fashioned people believe that the coil is better because it does last longer. We'll say that it's basically like your car, like your very first car, where it like has over 300,000 miles, it's still running. The same way that a coil machine does. You can always fix it up. With the rotary, as soon as the motor dies, you pretty much gotta get a new one unless you really know how to take apart a motor. Um, but with that being said, the guys have both tested coils and rotaries and different types of coils and rotaries, and I'm very blessed and privileged because I can sit down and talk to them and say, hey, does this brand work? Does this type of machine work? What machine is good for lining? What machine is good for shading? And they're guiding me on it. So I don't even have to sit here and guess on what type of equipment to get because they're already telling me, and I'm lucky enough to where they have all the extra machines for me to try out. And that's one of the advantages of being in an apprenticeship, because you're basically sitting there studying what they're doing so that you can basically replicate it, and you can avoid making these extra mistakes and wasting that much more time and messing somebody up, honestly. Because have you ever seen like those tattoos where like the lines are really blurry, or like it's raised and looks scarred and stuff like that? It's like probably most likely a scratcher that's done it, because you can really, honestly, you can really cut somebody because you're stabbing somebody with a needle, and if you don't do it right, it ends up becoming a cut, which is really, really hard to heal properly, and then your tattoo just looks like a hot mess. And that's like what most tattoos look like from like the 90s, because that's when it was just kind of starting getting more popular, and it was, you know, being disassociated, so separating from the stigma of like bikers and gang members and all that. So now it's becoming more obviously mainstream, which I have mixed feelings about. Like, I'm happy people are seeing tattoos as an art now, but man, do I tell you, the trend is real. we still get we get the typical people that want to get like arrows and uh like doves and all that crap, and I never thought in a million years that I would see a trend in tattoos, but it is insane. Same people want the same stuff, and like it's gotten to a point where we can literally kind of call it out. But I mean, hey, if that's whatever you guys want to get, you guys go ahead and get it. I'm
Just
just
remember, it's
saying,
on your body forever.
yeah, exactly. So like for me, I do have some typical tattoos. Like I have a shark, I have a lighthouse, I have a ship, and but I also got them for a reason, and I also went to a tattoo artist that loves to do traditional. So here's a tip. I'm gonna give you guys some tips for those that want to get tattoos. For one, do not go to the cheapest person. I'm not saying this to put money into pockets of certain artists. It's literally associated. What you pay for is what you will get. And literally, you will spend twice as much money trying to cover up the crappy tattoo that you got in the first place, when you could have spent the same amount to get an amazing tattoo the first time. So don't shop around for the cheapest. Look at the artist's portfolio and really consider what the artist likes to do. Because, for instance, my strong suit is black work, black and gray. The difference between black work and black work is more lines, and just like black, solid black shading. And black and gray is like a little bit of a wash of gray. So it looks like your typical black and gray photo type stuff. And I'm really good at dot work. So basically anything that's black and gray. But I also learned to do color, but I don't really care for color, so it's not my strong suit. And I would very much put more of a creative input on black and gray, because I know what works a lot better, what actually will look really good, as opposed to color where I'll struggle a little bit. So you gotta take into consideration the style of the artist. So like you shouldn't go to a traditional artist for something that's more of a modern realism, because they probably aren't comfortable in it. They'll do it, but it probably won't come out as great as if you went to somebody who actually specializes in that style. So don't shop around for the cheapest. Do your homework, study reputable artists in your area, or if you want to travel, I always encourage people to travel. It's always great for your mind and to just let go of any stress and get away for a bit. But then it also exposes you to like amazing artists and different places to go and explore. And
I think
then just have like references ready. Like the worst thing you can do is walk into a shop and be like, I don't know what I want to get, but I want to get something. And then like the artist has nothing to go off of. So just be prepared and just think about it. You know,
I think that
or
little
what
PSA
were you
is a
gonna say?
good place to. I was gonna say that PSA is a good place to end it.
Mm,
And it doesn't just go for tattoos. That's for everything that you have in life. Don't
yeah.
ever go with the cheapest because it's the cheapest for a reason.
Don't
Um,
settle.
yeah,
That
for
goes for
sure,
life. Don't settle.
for sure. Well, cool. This was a good episode. Like we said, it's a little bit of a lighter episode than what we've done in the past, and probably what we'll do in the future. But we'll sprinkle these in so it's not as heavy of a podcast as what it has been previously. So we've got some cool things in the works. We've got a few more interviews already lined up, and then we're always looking for more. If you've got a story you want to tell or experience that you want to share, or if you have thoughts on mental health in general, let us know. Remember, leave a 5-star review with a comment in the podcast on iTunes, and it'll enter you into a win a free shirt. Sammy Jammy, if you reach out to me on Facebook or on Instagram, we'll talk about getting you that free shirt. Um, and hit up the website, sparrowcloth.com. There's a link in the show notes. Take a look at the stuff, even if you don't want to buy anything right now. Let us know what you think. I'm always looking for feedback, and um, we're looking to grow the brand as much as we can over the next year. Share it with people. If you don't have money, share it with people that do. Um, if you like it enough to share it with people, let us know, and maybe we'll hook you up. Use podcast 10 to save 10% off, and we'll see you in the next one.
See you guys.